Hello, and welcome to EPR with your favorite environmental nerds, Nic and Laura. On today's episode, Nic and I discuss our upcoming AMA. We talk to Joanie Mahoney about SUNY ESF, chasing opportunities and guidance for student success. And finally, the combined weight of ants on the planet is higher than all human beings. The world has over 7 billion people, but approximately 10 trillion ants.
That's a lot.
And yeah.
Who's counting?
Did this happen?
What a monumental task, right? Okay, 1, 2, wait, where was I? Dang it. Okay, I got this. 1, 2, yeah.
I had a friend, a non-science friend, ask me seriously if too many people move to Florida and they keep building, if Florida would sink. So I guess I could say it depends on the number of ants that have been transferred out.
Yeah, no kidding. That's funny. There were some congressmen who they were going to relocate 30,000 people to Guam from Okinawa. And it was one of the projects I didn't work on, but I did like the back end management of some of it. And so I was just curious, looking for these things. And this guy is like, okay, so the congressman's like, what happens when people move? Is the island, going to tip over from the weight?
Yeah, same concept.
It's just like, wait, what? It's not floating out there like a raft. Like what? But I love the idea. What an incredible thing if all islands flipped over, if they had too many people on them. That's wild. It's like, wait, what? I don't know. Maybe it's just like bath time when you're a kid. You think that's how the ocean works,
Right.
All your floaties are at the top, but if you put, you can push them down, they disappear. So I don't know.
Hit that music.
Environmental Professionals Day is April 15th. Environmental professionals include social and environmental scientists, engineers and planners, and public and environmental health specialists, among others. Many of you listening to the show, in fact. We ask that you please show your thanks virtually to our environmental professionals. Here are a couple of ways that you can do that. Share any posts you see on social media about Environmental Professionals Day. We'll have more of that coming as we get a little bit closer. Share the work of someone you know on social media and tag them using hashtag Environmental Professionals Day or hashtag Thank You EPs. Share a short bio of someone you know who works to protect our environment and tag them with those same tags. Or share an article written by or about an environmental professional and tag them. Again, Environmental Professionals Day or hashtag Thank You EPs. Really, really thankful for everyone that listens to the show, for the work that we do, for our team, both at the podcast and at Dawson, I'm just saying. So very, very thankful and very, very happy to be part of that community.
Woot woot.
The Pennsylvania Association of Environmental Professionals is a chapter of NAEP that was formed in 1985 as a nonprofit entity and is a non-political interdisciplinary organization of professionally qualified individuals working in environmental management, environmental protection, compliance, design, engineering, research, and education. PAEP regularly conducts technical programs and network activities for the benefit and education of its members, students, and emerging professionals. PAEP offers annual scholarships to college students pursuing an environmental field of study in Pennsylvania and also presents awards of recognition annually to an individual and to an organization who have demonstrated excellence in environmental stewardship within the Commonwealth. PAEP's annual conference will be held in State College from September 20th through 22nd, 2023. PAEP is always looking for new members, individuals willing to serve on committees, technical experts, mentors, and fresh ideas to support future leaders in the environmental profession. Visit www.paep.org or email us at info@paep.org for more details. Let's get to our segment.
Okay, Nic, the AMA is this week.
Yeah.
Are you excited?
Yeah, I'm nervous.
Why are you nervous?
Oh, no, I'm just excited. I'm excited to see how it goes. I just really want it to be perfect and no issues.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
I know.
We were attempting to live stream with like 20 people on YouTube.
Yeah. It's going to be wild.
For the first time. So anybody listening, don't expect it to be perfect.
Hey, let's just hope I plug in everything correctly. That was the issue with my sound yesterday.
Listen, okay, I'm sending a clip of that to Erica because when we were waiting for you, I was like, I bet he's not plugged in.
Yeah. And I was plugged in, just just not the right thing to the right thing. So there we go.
Anyway, yes, we will test things before we go, but
yes.
you know how it goes when it's actually live time.
Yeah.
But what questions do you hope people ask you? Or should we give away a prize for someone who's listening who asks a specific question?
Oh, that's fun. Well, yes, and yes. I don't know. I just really hope people are engaged and ask any question. I don't care, honestly. I would love to talk about movies. That'd be fun. I'd love to talk about space. I'd love to talk about science. I'd love to talk about, how we got to where we are on our careers and, life advice and what to expect when you're expecting, whatever it is. I'm excited to go after.
Loves to talk, if you haven't noticed. So just jump on and ask a question so Nick can talk away.
What about you? Come on.
I hope people will ask questions not only for us, but that we can pass on to our guests. We're all here from different backgrounds and different varying opinions on things. Anytime we talked to Eric about this last week, anybody is trying to get advice from someone, just because you got the advice from someone doesn't mean it's the right advice. So ask 10 people instead of one and see if you get a different response if you didn't get what you wanted the first time. But we're all here too with different backgrounds and opinions. And plus, like, all of these people have volunteered their time. And I think what a great opportunity to just jump on, especially if you're recently graduated or looking for a job or something.
Yeah. Which reminds me, by the way, so I was in Hawaii over the past week, and I went on a boating tour, right? Yeah. And just so happened to have somebody who was an environmental scientist who was graduating and didn't know what she wanted to do. And I was like, hey, I have this thing you should check out, and that was pretty fun. So that was really, really cool.
Yeah. I think every single person I have a coaching meeting with, I'm like, oh, you need to listen to this episode, or you need to listen to that one. And I always send them over. And I don't know if this happens. We'll have to find out from our guests, but I'm always like, hey, their contact info is there. If, you have an open ticket, if you want to reach out to these people. And I don't know if it happens, but because people are so scared. So this is another opportunity. Don't be scared. Just come and ask your question.
Yeah.
And how that's going to work. Like, we'll be there talking, but you can submit through the chat, and our good old volunteers, Sam and Morgan, will be there and be able to help us field those questions. And Nick and I will pass them along either to ourselves or to our guests.
Or both. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And hopefully we get some really fun ones. I think that's really all I want, is something engaging and interesting. So, and I'm sure we will, truthfully, because we've got a smart audience. So,
right. The other thing we want is field stories.
Oh my gosh. Yes. And I think honestly, we should we could spend the whole time just asking our guests.
Right.
Come on, tell me another one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we can do that too, and try to get people, if we run out of questions or something, or someone just wants to share a cool story. Yeah. We're always looking for those.
Exactly. So what day is it, Lauren?
That is Tuesday, April 11th at 8 p.m. Eastern. Why is it so late, Nick?
Yeah. Well, we have people that are all over, not just on the East Coast. We want to make sure we get everybody that has an opportunity to join.
Yeah, particularly our Hawaii chapter. And so please join us. I think all you have to do is go to YouTube and watch. If you subscribe now, then you'll get notified, and you won't have to try to remember off your own brain. I know that's hard for me.
Yeah, so hit the subscribe button, and we'll see everyone there.
Yeah, and it's kind of also in conjunction with Environmental Professionals Day, which is happening the following Saturday, I think, April 15th.
That's correct.
So we're also there just to kind of celebrate the work that we do at the same time.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right. Well, that's it. I think that's it, right? Yeah. I think we're good.
All right. See you all there.
Cool.
Welcome back to EPR. Today we have Joanie Mahoney, president of the SUNY College of Environmental Science and Forestry. Welcome, Joanie.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be here talking to you and Nick.
Yeah, as you already know, because we've been chatting, I'm super excited to have you here. And I know that I can't even imagine how busy you are in your role there with the university. But I moved here in 2017 because we're both here in Syracuse, and I had no idea that the school even existed. So, as an environmental career coach, I was like, what? How do I not know that there's a whole college dedicated to environmental science and forestry. I mean, the title and everything is perfect. Obviously, when I went back to school, I just went where it was close to me. I didn't do a lot of research. So before we jump into you and your background and stuff, why don't you tell us a little bit about the programs that SUNY ESF has?
Sure. And I'll say that you're touching on our single biggest vulnerability, and that is that everybody refers to us as a hidden gem. Yeah. And I said, we don't really want to be hidden. We are certainly a gem. We are a gem nationwide, but I think especially in the SUNY system, we're a specialized college that has an interesting, unique existence because we started out as part of Syracuse University, the College of Forestry at Syracuse University. We were never officially part of Syracuse University, but that's who we were. And we had different iterations over the years, but in 1948, when the SUNY system was created, we were put into the SUNY system. And over the years, we have at different times been a 4-year college, as we are now, and a 2-year college, but the final 2 years, not like a junior college. It was do junior college first and then come. And the reason that is meaningful still today is because when we went to a 4-year college, we were able to do that because of our partnership with Syracuse University, which is adjacent to us. If you come to the ESF campus, a lot of people will feel like they're on the Syracuse University campus, but we are immediately next door. And our students get a lot of what they need through that partnership that we have with Syracuse University. They do a lot of back office things like IT and help us with our disability services and things like that. But our students also take classes at Syracuse. So now that SUNY is moving to these requirements that we have a general education core, ESF has always been highly specialized and we'll get those classes from Syracuse. Some are being created on our campus and in partnership with other SUNY schools. But we're a college that attracts students that have a passion for the environment, and they will be environmental engineers, environmental scientists. We have environmental studies with communications and policy. We have chemistry, environmental biology, wildlife science, chemical engineering, paper science. And what I love about ESF is no matter where you are on our campus, whether you're having lunch with a friend or you're in a class or you're part of a club, you're among people that all share this interest in the environment. So it's a cool place to come to college, especially with that passion.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I love that so much because I mean, that's why we do the podcast and, it's just all about, it's why I don't work in the field anymore, but I love environmental professionals. We all care about something so meaningful and love to travel, love craft beer, all this stuff. We all have such similar interests and it's just nice people to be around. So I totally get that. And then plus, finding jobs is hard. So it's nice to have like people with like-minded things to try and conquer the world with after you graduate. But some of the academic tracks, like if I'm looking to come there, what are some of your more popular ones? I mean, you even have a storytelling studio, which can I come there to do film?
Yes. Isn't that interesting? Right? It's the digital storytelling, and our students do things like make little short nature documentaries, and they win national awards in competitions with colleges that are much bigger and much better known than we are. It's a big component in the environmental world, which I appreciate that you're doing this podcast because the key things is communication. We have a lot of really cutting edge, important science that happens on our college campus, but unless our students can translate policymakers and to the general public, then it is a lot less impactful. So we take very seriously that communication component. As you mentioned, maybe before we came on, but I have this cool podcast that I get to do with faculty at ESF. And when I get different academic teams together, sometimes they'll have as part of their grant a person whose specialty is communication, because it's such an important part of what we're doing here is translating that science. And I come from a world where I needed people to tell us what the policies should be when I was in local government. And, we need people who can tell us what that lab experiment means in the real world and what we should be asking people to do to make a healthier planet for all of us.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I met someone a while back, John, I'm going to forget his last name, but he worked in the paper and pulp section. Is that SU or ESF?
That's ESF.
Okay,
yep.
Yeah, that sounded really fascinating too. He said it was one of maybe 3 schools that do that.
I think we're the only one that actually has a working paper mill on the campus. It is neat. And we have students that come into that program and they are supported among the best of any in terms of financial support because we have a partnership with the Syracuse Pulp and Paper Foundation, SPPF. And if you are in that major, you will progressively get more scholarship dollars as you work your way through. And for the 4.5 years now that I've been at ESF, we can still say we have 100% placement in some of our highest paying jobs. Our students are scooped up before they even graduate because, it is, I think people going to say, because it really is it continues to be a growing field. I think people think paper and they think copy paper, newspaper, and the world is changing. But think of all of the packaging with Amazon, and we want to be more sustainable. And, what kinds of plant products can be used to create packaging that can offset plastics. We're doing things that matter, and our students are really well respected. And, our career fairs are like shoulder to shoulder. Employers really want to be at our career fairs because they want to meet our students and they scoop our students up. And it's one of the biggest parts of our value proposition for coming to ESF. Not only are we lost in a phenomenal product, but you will get a job in your field or you will be accepted to a fantastic graduate program at ESF or elsewhere because of the preparation that you're going to get at ESF.
Yeah, that's really awesome. John Turbeville, is he still there?
Yeah.
Okay, John Turbeville actually runs our career program. So he's the person who's that's the
name I remember.
There you go.
He's the one who's making our career fair so jam-packed. So awesome. I'm glad he's talking to you because you place people in careers in the environmental field, right?
I do.
Yeah.
And I help place them in careers when they've graduated or even when they're students. But then I also do a lot of work with career changers now. So many people are trying to get into impactful jobs, and a lot of them come from sales or manufacturing or something, and they're like, I don't know what to do, or I've been trying things and I can't figure it out. So it's helpful for me to know what the programs are. So this is awesome.
That's really great that you're doing that. I feel lucky that I've ended up being able to work in this area that I have a passion for. But people that are my age that came through a similar educational program as I did, we didn't have these jobs in nature and environmental science. They weren't part of what was being talked about at the 5th grade career fair. And for this to be such an important topic and for people to have such a passion about it, but have missed that opportunity, and you can tell them how it's not too late. And if you want to pivot and get into this area, you can show them how to do it. So I think it's great that you exist with that body of work that you're doing.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And, I'll add too, I think, there's a perception that you have to have, all these requirements to get a job. But one of our best employees has a degree in international affairs. She's a fantastic writer, and I knew that. And that's why I hired her, and ended up being a great, great, great hire. So it's definitely possible.
Yeah. And we're lucky that there's people like you hiring that see that, because you come through college in the 80s or 90s and you have an English degree or something, but you're really passionate about the environment. You're not going to have that educational degree that jumps off the page at you. But when you see the skill set and that it will translate into any career, but, a passion for the environment, I think is requirement number one to work in this field, and if you have that passion, you can almost work with anything else.
Right. Have you seen an increase in like maybe older or people who are coming for a second degree or something into the programs?
Well, we're a pretty traditional in-person college, and that is because our field experiences are such a big part of what we do. But we are pivoting and we are focused. We're going through a strategic planning process right now and talking about how to grow our open academy, which does attract a non-traditional student that can't come to campus and be there in a residential way for 4 years and spend the summer up at Cranberry Lake in the Adirondacks or something. I want to be there for that person. We're starting to offer certifications, masters in professional studies, things that are a little bit different than the path that you come and get a bachelor's and an MS and a PhD. We're trying to find entry points for people, and we found them in our open academy, and we do want to expand that, but we don't want to lose sight. You know, a lot of people are going online, but a big part of what is our field experiences. We take students out into the forest, and, you know, they're up at the Thousand Island Biological Station and they're in the water, you know, in their fisheries program. And so it's something we're really proud of at the same time, but not possible for some people that are at a different point in their lives.
Yeah. That's really invaluable.
Oh, I absolutely agree. And, you know, I visit and the students are having a blast. They're so interested in what they're doing. And when you compare that to some of the lectures that are kind of stereotypical in some colleges where there's 400 people in a lecture, and it's really difficult to just pay attention to someone talking at you. You know, our students have, you know, dirty hands, and they're getting right in it, and they're in small groups. We're a small college, deliberately small. You know, we're not able to have small labs for everybody. I mean, our students are taking biology, chemistry, physics. We can't have 400-person classes in the lab. So we are very competitive. You have to come to us with a pretty solid foundation from high school, but we're trying to put agreements together with high schools so that you'll know coming in, if you're a student that does have interest in the environment. I can tell you coming in as a 9th grader, if you take these classes in 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, 12th grade, we're going to have a seamless path into ESF.
Oh, very cool. Yeah. Well, let's try to change pace and talk about you and your career a little bit. So you've had some amazing jobs. So tell us about your career path. I mean, what do you love too about what you're doing now?
My career path has included a lot of luck. I feel like I put myself in a position to take advantage of that opportunity when it came along. So I don't really want to minimize the preparation, but it definitely included a lot of right place, right time. I will start at the beginning. I grew up in Syracuse, New York. I'm the 5th of 9. So I joke around that I needed attention so badly that I got into a career in politics where I could make TV commercials about myself, you know. My siblings all still live here, with the exception of our oldest son. All 17 of my parents' grandchildren are here. So we're very much Central New York committed family. Our roots run really deep here. We go back generations in Syracuse. And I went to public high school, Corcoran High School in Syracuse, New York. I went to Syracuse University, both undergrad and for law school. And I think law is one of those degrees that really translates into a lot of different careers. So I encourage people, if they have an interest in that, to do that, because you're not really pigeonholing yourself yet, you know? Yeah. And then my first job out of law school was a big firm. I moved to Ithaca, New York, and lived there for about a year. It's not too far from Syracuse, New York. And I did like it, but I knew that I wanted to be in Syracuse, and I didn't want to spend a lot of time networking and putting a book of, you know, practice together in a community that I didn't think that I was going to be in long term. Yeah. So I'll say this is where one of the luck parts came in. I knew I wanted to come back to Syracuse. I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to do, but I met the person who was running for DA, and I had never considered a career in criminal law. It just wasn't on my horizon. But he said, I'm going to be the DA, because he was running unopposed in his very first race and he was staffing up his office. So he knew months in advance that he was going to be the DA. And he said, come work with me. And I thought, okay, like it's a really great opportunity. I mean, so
why not?
Yeah. So I did it, and I found that it's one of my favorite jobs that I ever had in my whole life. I stayed there for 5 years. During that time, I was married. My husband and I had our first 2 sons. And as people in nonprofit and public sector work find out, the balance between a salary and childcare gets out of whack really quickly. Yeah. So I stepped out of the full-time work and I stayed home and took care of our kids, which is another stroke of luck. It's something that I wanted to do. I think a lot of people want to do, but it worked out for me. It just doesn't work out for everybody. And during that time that I was home with our kids, I threw my hat in the ring for a job on our city council. And I highly recommend that. You talk about what kind of experience people need to do different jobs and they think they're not qualified for things. If you love your community, you're qualified to put your hat in the ring for a job in local government. That's really it. There's no other, there's no other requirement. So I served 4 years as a city councilor in Syracuse, found that I loved the constituent service work. I'd be in the grocery store and run into people that wanted to talk about a stop sign on their corner or a pothole. Right. But one of the things that's really germane to this conversation is that during the time I was on the city council, the county was planning, because it was under a federal court order to clean Onondaga Lake, which is in the county and partly in the city of Syracuse. They were planning a series of regional sewage treatment plants. They call them regional treatment facilities. They didn't want us to call them sewage treatment plants. And I thought, okay, because you're putting them in our neighborhoods. That's probably why you don't want us to call them that. And so that was an issue that really resonated with me. And I did what I could as a city councilor. I voted against transferring the land to the county to be able to do that. And, everyone was saying to me in those days, we need to have these sewage treatment plants here because that's where the problem is, because the tributary was, collecting these combined sewer overflows. There was raw sewage. And I felt like they were patting me on my head, like that's where the problem is. So that's why we have to have the sewage treatment plants. But I said, and I believe, and I would bet my life on it, that if the problem happened to be in one of our more affluent suburbs, that isn't what you would say the solution is. We're not going to take the whole neighborhood down, clear cut everything, and build a sewage treatment plant because that's where the problem is, right? So I thought, well, let's look for the kinds of solutions that you might be looking for. Were we talking about more affluent? So that really piqued my interest in environmental justice, in the environmental movement, in how to do things better. And so, that resulted in my running for county executive. And it was fun because, here I am now on the other side where the city was suing the county to prevent that from happening when I was on the city council. But now here I am in the county executive's office. My very first week, I stopped with the regional treatment facilities. There was one scheduled, Laura, Syracuse, in Armory Square. There was going to be a sewage treatment plant put on the trolley parking lot, behind the Armory. Yeah. And then there were two more besides that. So this part of the story, and I'm kind of pivoting on you. I hope you don't mind that I'm continuing to go on, but this part I think this is so interesting. So I knew that I wanted to do something different, but I didn't really know what was possible. And some of the heroes in this story are people that you will never hear their names. there was a woman, Aggie Lane. She's a neighbor of the first sewage treatment plant that was built. She lived in the area where they took down the houses and they put the sewage treatment plant up. I went over to her house and she unrolled on her dining room table the map of our sewer system. And she was saying to me, here's all the things that we could do instead of building sewage treatment plants. I know. And so there's a real neighborhood component to this, but I'm not sure they were ever really listened to. And so that started me understanding that there are possibilities. We invited NRDC, National Resources Defense Council, we invited them to come give a presentation on their publication From Rooftops to Rivers, and it was all about green infrastructure. And I sat in the presentation, thought, this is it. This is exactly what we can do rather than collecting all that combined sewer overflow and treating it and untreating it and putting it back in the creek. Let's just keep the rainwater out of the system. It won't overflow. We can treat the sewage, but we don't have to treat all the rainwater. And that led to something that we call Save the Rain. And so you can kind of see the progression, even though it looks weird on paper that I'm a lawyer and I'm a DA and then I'm a city councilor and a stay-at-home mom, and now I'm the president of an environmental science college. And again, it was because I had been elected 3 times. I was at the end of my 3rd 4-year term. I believe that there's value for the community and a fresh set of eyes. So I knew I didn't want to run again. And at that time, the president of SUNY ESF announced that he was stepping down in a few months. And I just took a shot. I'm a very non-traditional college president, but because I was local and a lot of the faculty had interacted with me on the cleanup of this Superfund site, I think that it was a little less risky. They at least knew that I came with the passion for the work. And now I'm in another favorite job of all time. So you see where the luck is. You see how I came to it kind of naturally. But I love being around people that are doing this work.
That's so funny. That's literally, somebody once told me that it's you can plan for your career all you want, but there's so much you don't even understand of where it's going to go. And you're the embodiment of that. And every single new job and opportunity does make sense when you say it out loud. But I was looking at it how did she get here?
Yes. Yeah. I got here very organically, but I do think it's a lesson to people to keep an open mind. And, follow your passion because it comes through. You would know better than me even, but in an interview, if you're talking to somebody who's really passionate about the work you're doing, it comes through. Yeah. And that's why I said, if you come with a passion for the work, we can, do a lot of the training, but you can't really teach the passion.
No. And like you say, it's taking a chance sometimes. But, when there's a door that's open, you also walk through it, which I think is really important. Because, if you just sit down and do nothing, you're not going to get those opportunities. But you were like, this is interesting. I'm going to go in this direction, right? You made that choice. And so I don't know if you've got to have lots of different people coming in every single year, new students. And what would you offer to them as kind of how to be successful before and after they graduate?
Well, I think a curiosity for things that you don't know is a great start. I try to tell, we have 4 sons that range in age from 20 to 27. And I tell them, you don't realize it, but this is the part in your life where you're not supposed to know everything. And you should challenge yourself when you meet people to just ask them as many questions as you can. If we limited ourselves to, again, going back to that 5th grade career day, we'd all be firefighters or police officers or lawyers or doctors, right? I don't know about you, but I didn't know all these careers existed. And then, if you limit yourself just to the specific, deliberate education that you're getting in college, you're going to miss out on a lot. So I think being curious is the thing that I would say before you get into your career and then after, but especially as college students, join clubs, put yourself in positions. I was a criminal prosecutor. I would have bet my last dollar if you asked me if I would ever be a criminal prosecutor, I would have said, no, I don't foresee any circumstance where I'm going to do that. but I did it and I loved it. And then that opened up other doors for me. And so that's my advice to people is, do something that you're interested in, but don't just limit yourself to that. Be curious. Ask 10 different people a question every day if you're able to. That's a really successful day. And then afterwards, I think I'd echo a lot of the things that you both have said on this podcast that I've heard in the past, right? Put your skill set on your resume, right? You don't want to do the work to try to figure out if you've done something, and really stop and think about that. Because, I can say that I am a lawyer, right? But I can also say that I'm a good communicator. I'm a good writer. I'm able to stand up. I'm comfortable with public speaking. Help the person that wants to hire you understand where you're going to fit in that organization. And I would do that with every job you've ever had, whether, as you've said before, it's a barista in a coffee shop. What skill did you have that made you good at that? Write that down on your resume so you, Nic, will know whether that translates into something that you can work with. And then, do you have 5 years? So we put out all these job descriptions. You need 5 years of experience doing this thing. And because you didn't have a job where that was what you had to do, you don't feel like you had that experience. But if you take a step back and see really what the skill set is to do that thing, you probably do. I'm 57 now. I probably am qualified for more jobs than I realize. Yeah. Right. Because of the different skills I've gotten from the other jobs. So that would be my advice to students. And, I think it's counter to some of the advice that I've heard people say. I've heard people advise students to be as broad as they can in their education. But I kind of disagree, because I think you're going to be successful if you're focused on something you're really interested in, and then broaden your horizons as you go along the way. But I think you'll be a better student if you're doing something you're genuinely interested in.
Yeah. I mean, that makes total sense, And like I say, gosh, I also love the be curious answer. It's such a great idea too. But we do want to give you a chance to talk more about your podcast and what you do with Campus Conversations. So I don't know, how did that come to be, and what do you do on that show?
That came to be because I was the new president at this college, and I have as a mission to do away with the hidden part of our hidden gem status. And I also just was blown away by the work that was being done on our campus. And, Laura, you talked about not knowing of ESF, even though you were in the business. I think we at ESF would be really disappointed at the percentage of people who've spent their whole lives in Central New York and don't know ESF. Yeah. So this podcast came about as one of the ways that I want to put out to the world who ESF is, but what the work is that's being done there. And it's generated a lot of really great feedback. I'm not an experienced podcaster, and I hope I get better as it goes along. But the point of my podcast is to let faculty tell you what they're doing. And what they're doing is absolutely fascinating. I'll give you a couple of examples. At ESF, we are on the verge of reintroducing to nature a tree that, for all intents and purposes, has been extinct. And it is one of the most important trees in North America. It's the American chestnut tree. Wow. And if you look at everything that is affected when the American chestnut tree suffered blight and was wiped out, billions of trees, when you see all of what it provided to nature and then what it meant when that went away, it's devastating. And so we have a brilliant faculty member. His name is Bill Powell. And he, in his lab, so I'll just back up and tell you, when I say for all intents and purposes extinct, it's only under the soil because the blight killed the tree, but it didn't kill all the root structure. But as soon as the tree grows, the blight gets it and it can't thrive. So he found a gene that occurs in nature that can be added to the American chestnut tree that he's growing in his lab that makes it blight resistant. And he's been very successful, and it's on the verge of being reintroduced in nature. And it's going through FDA approvals because it is a source of food with the American chestnut. It's going through a lot of federal regulatory process. And there is a knee-jerk reaction that this is like GMO, right? And that's a bad thing. But this is a gene that's found in other plants that you are consuming, that when you add it to the American chestnut tree, it thrives. So that work is being done at Little ESF in Syracuse, New York. People say all the time, we punch above our weight, but you're going to start to see the American chestnut again. And that is morphing into something that we are proud of, which is a whole tree restoration center. Because, Dutch elm disease, the emerald ash borer is killing the ash trees. Mm-hmm. So, we need those trees. And we now at ESF are focused on how to protect those trees and how to help those trees. And that's being done at ESF. We also, just this year, have a MacArthur Genius Fellow in Dr. Robin Kimmerer, who is a traditional ecological knowledge specialist. She is the founder of our Center for Native People and the Environment, and it combines the traditional ecological knowledge with Western science, and it helps people benefit from what the indigenous people in this country have known for hundreds of years that we kind of ignored and paid a price for and are now trying to go back and relearn. And Robin was awarded a MacArthur Genius Fellow earlier this year. So I get to talk to these people on this podcast. I've talked to both of them, and I've talked to probably 15 others where I just say, tell people how you came to this line of work, kind of like you did with me, and then tell people what you're doing. And, there's a faculty member who's working on fish in the Baltic Sea. And how much would you love this to be a part of your day, to just get one of these brilliant faculty members and say, could you just stop for 1 minute what you're doing and just tell me all about it?
Yeah.
How lucky am I, right? You're looking, after you listen to yours, you're looking for other interesting podcasts. I get to make them with these faculty members at ESF. So I also did a couple special bonus episodes with our local legislature delegation because, it's important for our folks to know who the people are that are making the work possible. We do a lot of work with grants that we get from the federal government and the state government, and who are these people? And it's really important for us to know each other and for them to know the work that we're doing. But mostly it's all faculty.
That's very cool. I love that. Obviously we do, right?
Oh, I say it to all of them. I say, I feel really full of myself where I'm like, oh, sit down and tell me
Welcome.
about.
Yes, yeah.
I think it's great. There's so many, students too, who don't realize that picking a faculty advisor is an important choice, for their graduate degrees. And like a friend of mine didn't do that. And oh my God, she was miserable with the project she ended up with.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I didn't even think about that, but we should be deliberately sharing these podcasts with potential grad students.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I would have loved to listen to advisors at the school I went to for grad school. That would have been really cool. Without you get to know who they are as people too. It's not just what they do, but how they present themselves and
where did they come from? Why are they here? Why are they doing what they're doing?
What are they really passionate about? Yeah, exactly. So, there you go. That's
Campus Conversations. If anybody else wants to listen to it, it's ESF, Campus Conversations.
Perfect. Now it's time for Field Notes. This is the part of the show where we ask our guests about memorable moments at work. We encourage our listeners to share their stories with us using hashtag Field Notes so we can read them on future episodes. So, do you have a funny or memorable moment to share with us?
I don't know that I have a funny moment, but I will say, at the risk of repeating myself, that one of the most memorable and impactful things for me was going into a neighbor's house that was suffering from an environmental justice project. rather than just reading about it in a magazine, and you hear how people are affected, but actually going and sitting at her dining room table and hearing her and seeing the work that she had done on her own time because her neighborhood was being destroyed. But that is one of the most memorable parts of my long, kind of weird career, is just sitting at this woman's dining room table and letting her tell me not only how this project was affecting her, but what her ideas were about what we could do to make it better. And those ideas really happened, and they really became this Save the Rain program, which won national accolades. And, we were out in San Francisco and they were asking us how we got started on all these projects. We were in Philadelphia, we were in New York City. Like, you could draw a line from this woman's dining room table to things that are literally changing the world. And so I would encourage anybody in any field to just stop and listen to the people that are most affected by what you're trying to fix or what you're trying to prevent. Some of the best ideas I've ever heard have come from the ground, from people affected.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
It's a great point. And I think, I've seen that happen in my career as well. And it's people who don't necessarily have background, but they, what they do have? Passion about where they live.
Exactly. That's why I said, if you have the passion, we can work with anything else. But, her passion translated into a lot of Google searches, but she landed on a solution that was possible, and not everybody has that kind of time, but you'll find the time if it's happening across the street from your home.
Right. And it's infecting you every single day. You're going to find it. You become very interested in it all of a sudden. It's kind of, it's a great point.
I'll just add one other thing to that.
Yeah.
So, some of these folks came to public hearings and spoke, and I looked around at the people that were supposed to be listening, and they weren't. Not all of them. I don't want to brush with too broad a stroke, but, here's people. Can you imagine if this horrible thing is happening in your neighborhood? Like, they're going to level all your neighbors' houses and they're going to put a sewage treatment plant in your neighborhood. And you're just like consumed by it. And you're studying up, and you have this moment in front of a microphone to talk to the people that are making the decision. And they're like on their cell phone, or they're looking around, or it's just, it's very discouraging. And that's why my message to everybody, especially young people, is to get involved. I had the opportunity to go to Brookhaven National Lab, and they were graduating their summer internship program. So it was high school students. And it was right around the time that the federal government passed the Infrastructure Relief Act. Is that what it was called? The IRA? That included money for environmental work. And when I was talking to them about it, I said, how many of you have an interest in getting involved in politics and local government, or, Congress or something? And I was talking to 70, 80 students, and not a hand went up. And I said, but do you understand that if you don't do it, you're leaving a vacuum for the people who don't have the knowledge and the passion that you have? And, we sit back and kind of complain or lament about the way things are going in our country. But these are the people we're electing. And if we're not willing to get, a lot of people, they're like, oh my gosh, I would never do that. You don't do that. You're leaving it to the people that are making oftentimes horrible decisions on behalf of all of the rest of us. So, my big plea to everybody is to be willing to get right into it. If our Congress was made up of people like you, Laura, and Nic, and it included the faculty at ESF, and some of the students were graduating, and these kids from Brookhaven National Lab. So we sit back and think, oh, these people are crazy and they don't know what they're doing. And meanwhile, we're not willing to do it.
Right. Yeah, that's a great point. There's a call to action.
There is a call to action. And I will say that my chat lit up, and I got 3 or 4 different people saying, well, how do you run for office? I was like, okay, good. I'm just going to start this little snowball rolling downhill.
Cool.
Yeah. I was going to say, like, step one, you have to, be able to talk in front of people. Right. That's number one. Is that
right? Right.
Yeah. You can't be quiet.
You can't be quiet. You got to be able to communicate. The Digital Storytelling Lab at ESF is a great tool to launch people on their political careers. And you don't have to make it your full-time job, but do what I did and get involved on your city council or, your town board or your village board, because that's where the decisions are made that affect the people, like the woman who's unfurling the sewer maps on her dining room table. I mean, she probably never in her life thought she was going to track down the sewer maps for the city, right?
Right. Well, and I'm sure she's just so glad that someone listened to her. So, grateful
and did something about it too.
That.
Not just listen, but did something. Because there's two versions of that story.
Right. I think, though, Joanie, everything you've been saying is awesome and wonderful, and we would love to keep talking to you for another hour, but
I know.
We'll move on with our lives.
We can always have you back at another time. But is there anything else you want to talk about that we didn't get to?
I don't think so. I think that you've been very generous in letting me just go on and on. But if there are people that are listening that have young people in their lives looking for options for college, look us up, because we are a phenomenal place doing really great work, but we're still in that hidden gem category. We're really affordable. You'd be shocked at how affordable it is because we're part of the state system. So if you're a New York State resident, your full-time annual tuition at ESF is just over $7,000 a year.
Wow.
That's amazing. And the cost of living here is, cheaper than anywhere else in the country. So
I know.
Yeah.
I know. And thank you so much for taking time to listen. I really appreciate it. Thanks for the work you're doing.
Of course.
Final question. Where can people get in touch with you?
I am at jmahoney at esf.edu. That is my email address. And I usually see my emails. I always tell people I see my email, but if you don't hear from me in a reasonable amount of time, feel free to pull it back to the top of my email stream. But that's the best way. I am on LinkedIn, and you can certainly peruse our website, which is great, at esf.edu.
Thank you for being here and joining us today. All right, that's our show. Thank you, Joanie, for joining us today. Please be sure to check us out each and every Friday. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. Bye.
See you, everybody.